It started on a quiet Sunday evening, the kind of day when everything feels still, predictable, and ordinary. My wife Claire had invited a few of her friends over for drinks and laughter. I was in the kitchen, grilling steaks and keeping out of their way, the background husband doing his bit. From where I stood, I could hear their voices rise and fall, the clinking of glasses, bursts of laughter, that familiar rhythm of friendship I never minded. But then one sentence shattered the calm. I'd leave my husband if I had better. It came from Claire's mouth, followed by a wave of giggles and a half-hearted, "I'm kidding," except I knew she wasn't. There's a tone a person uses when truth slips through disguised as humor, the kind that makes the air feel heavier. I froze by the counter, the scent of smoke and spice from the grill turning sour in my chest. My hand gripped the edge of the sink as her words echoed in my head, looping over and over. If I had better, I'd been many things in this marriage. Patient, steady, maybe even boring. But I'd never thought I wasn't enough. That night, as I brought in the food, I smiled like nothing happened. Her friends laughed and teased, sipping their wine, and Claire glanced at me with that same practiced charm she always wore in company. No one suspected the fire quietly starting inside me. After they left, she came to the kitchen, barefoot and tipsy, still grinning. "You didn't have to cook so much," she said, brushing past me, smelling of perfume and Chardonnay. I asked, calm as ever, "You meant what you said?" She blinked, her smile fading. "What do you mean?" "About leaving me, if you had better." For a moment, she said nothing. Then she laughed, too loud. "Oh, come on, Ryan, don't tell me you're taking that seriously." It was a joke, but her eyes darted away the way people look when they realize they've been overheard. I just nodded, pretending to buy it. "Sure," I said softly. "A joke." She went upstairs, humming to herself. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the empty glasses, the lipstick stains on the rims. The house that once felt like ours suddenly seemed smaller, colder. Over the next few days, nothing changed on the surface. We ate breakfast together, exchanged the usual morning chatter. She scrolled through her phone endlessly, laughing at messages that weren't meant for me. At night, she turned her back before I could say goodnight. But something inside me shifted. Not rage, not sadness, just clarity, if she thought she could do better. Maybe she needed to see what life looked like when the man she took for granted decided to stop trying. So I did what she never expected. I stopped being available. I stopped chasing conversations, stopped reminding her of bills, dates, and errands. When she asked for help, I smiled and said, "You'll figure it out." When she complained about work, I just nodded. No advice, no concern. Just distance, and she noticed. The first week, she brushed it off. The second, she started to frown more often. By the third, she asked, "Are you mad at me or something?" I simply said, "No, just learning from you." Claire wasn't used to losing attention. She thrived on being adored, admired, needed. Now the silence around her was deafening. Her friends still called, but I heard the tone shift, pity replacing gossip. Then one night, she came home late. I was on the couch reading. She dropped her purse, looked at me with glassy eyes, and said, "You've changed." I closed the book and met her gaze. "No, Claire," I said quietly. "I just stopped pretending that being invisible is love." The next day, she texted her friends. I know because I saw the notification flash across her screen. "He's acting different, cold. I think he's done." She was right. That message, "I think he's done," wasn't wrong. I had reached that quiet point where disappointment hardens into peace. There was no fight left, no begging, no raised voice. Just silence, and silence can be far louder than anger. The following weekend, she decided to fix things in her own way. She dressed up more than usual, tried to make small talk, complimented my shirt, laughed at things I didn't say to be funny. I watched her act, saw the cracks forming beneath the smile. She wanted to pull me back into orbit, where she was the sun and I revolved around her warmth. But I was already somewhere else, mentally, emotionally. I wasn't cruel. I was just done. One evening, she brought up the past like a card trick. "Remember when we used to stay up all night talking? You used to say I was your whole world." I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "And I meant it." She smiled, relieved for a second, until I added, "But worlds change, Claire, especially when the center collapses." Her expression faltered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said softly, I believed in us until you told people you could do better. Maybe you were right. Maybe you can. I just won't be the one waiting to find out. For a long moment, she stood there frozen, blinking fast, as if trying to piece together how a few careless words could undo everything. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in months. The next morning, I packed a bag and left early, not as an act of cruelty, but of self-respect. I didn't slam doors or write notes. I just left the keys on the counter beside her favorite mug, the one that said "Best Wife Ever." By noon, my phone buzzed with messages. "Where are you? Can we talk?" "Ryan, please don't do this," but I didn't reply. I went to stay with my brother for a few days. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and turned on the game. That's the kind of silence men understand. No advice, no judgment, just space. By the third day, Claire showed up at his door. Her eyes were red, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. She looked nothing like the woman who once said she could find better. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. I nodded and followed her outside. The air was cool, the sky gray. She wrung her hands, searching for words. I didn't mean what I said that night. It was stupid. I was showing off, trying to sound funny. You know how girls talk when they've had too much wine. I met her eyes. "No, Claire. I know how truth sounds when people stop hiding it." She swallowed hard, tears forming. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said. "But you did." There was a pause, the kind that stretches between two people who both realize it's over but aren't ready to admit it. She looked down, whispering, "So what now?" I took a deep breath, feeling strangely calm. "Now? You get to find your better. And I get to remember what being enough feels like." For a second, I thought she might argue, fight, scream. But she just nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. She turned and walked back to her car, shoulders shaking, the sound of her quiet sobs fading into the wind. I didn't watch her drive away. I didn't need to. The ending had already happened weeks ago, the night she decided I was a placeholder for something better. Funny thing, though. Once I stopped chasing her, people started noticing me again. At work, friends reached out, old connections reignited. Turns out, when you stop giving all your love to someone who disrespects it, the world has a way of giving it back. A few months later, I heard she was seeing someone new, the kind of man she once claimed she deserved. But rumor had it he treated her like an option, the same way she once treated me. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. Some lessons don't need applause. Because when she said, I'd leave my husband if I had better, I didn't argue, didn't beg her to stay. I simply made sure she never had that option again.